For the past 20 years, the UK's National Motorcycle Museum has existed to preserve the best of British biking. When we filmed these archive shots in 1999, great British names such as Triumph, BSA and Norton sat alongside less famous but no less cherished British marques, in a collection that spanned some 900 bikes displayed over 5 exhibition halls. But disaster struck in September 2003, when a devastating fire burnt much of the museum to the ground, destroying more than 2/3 of the collection. The owners vowed it would be rebuilt and much of the collection restored by the end of 2004. Some said it was an impossible deadline. This is the story of how the famous Norton Works race team from the 1970s reunited in a race against time to recreate 5 amazing bikes.
I come from Devon, Teignmouth in Devon. I joined the Norton AJS Competition and Development Department here at Thruxton in 1969 as a development test rider. That department of Norton's then became NVPS, Norton Villiers Performance Shop, and from there we produced the racing machines, the famous Norville production racing machines, and my job was to build the engine bottom halves and to track test all the Norvilles. And then of course in the summer of '71 we became the John Player Norton race team. We had a call from the Motor Museum a month or so after the fire, and we were asked if we would be prepared to help out with the restoration on the Works Nortons. I was aware that the restoration was going on. I hadn't given it much thought actually, so we went up the next day. We spoke to Roy Richardson, and it was agreed we would do the restoration of the John Player Nortons. I was lucky enough to locate our original chief mechanic, John McLaren, and one of our prominent works mechanics, Peter Pikett, and also our original draftsman from the race shop, Basil Knight.
Yeah, I sort of was sort of foreman, become chief mechanic, so we got the team up running. Everyone was individual. Luckily, they also had a bit of talent for something, and they all seemed to get onto the right job at the right time for them.
I was one of the original 4 or 5 members that we built the bikes up from scratch, and they were ridden throughout the various seasons under the John Player Norton banner, with various degrees of failure and success, but all in all, the most enjoyable time for us.
I came to the gate on D-Day in '71. I started with Norton's on that day. We were then Norton Villiers Performance Shop, run by Peter Inchie as managing director, and my job was to do all the drawings, to update everything on paper that had been manufactured, which was all the performance parts for the commandos.
The fact that these men worked in the Norton's racing competition shop means that they've got a pretty good sound knowledge of race machinery, and they must be at the top of their tree in that field, I should say. We were asked to restore or rebuild the burnt wreckage of 2 Works John Player Norton production races. The very famous John Player Norton monocoque machine from 1973, and the rather more infamous Cosworth Norton from 1975 and '76.
That one is out of the monocoque.
It's out of monocoque.
All this is aluminium. That was a gearbox there, and that just melted around the gears. The gears fell out, and that's just a mass of molten aluminium. This is all the timing case, with the oil pump and the timing gears on. The only bit that hadn't distorted is the barrel, which is made of steel, but everything else is alley. See the flow at the crankshaft there, the engine sprocket. Quite amazing. The heat must have been Well, you can work out what the heat is at the melting point of alley.
Yeah, what is that? It's about 600, isn't it?
At least, yeah.
We've been commissioned to build two Cosworths, identical to the way, or bring them back to the way they were when they left our race department. We had one engine, one spare engine, we needed another, and the other one arrived this afternoon in bits. And we've got to go through all that and sort it out and build that engine.
So do you have the original drawings for this, or...?
No? This is what the trouble is. You, when your memory runs out, you ask. When no one else knows, you look at pictures. When you finally work out how to make it, you realise that so these days machinery is so easy to make it from that, but you can't use them. So you have to go back to the original banging and smashing.
This is going to be the monocoque engine, and I'm building this engine exactly as we did in '73. Obviously we make them a bit more advanced now, but I'm building the monocoque exactly as it was in those days. This power unit, or a similar power unit, took the monocoque around the Isle of Man at about 108 mile an hour, which was a record in those days. I mean, I know they do 128 now, but back in '73 that was a record lap, I think. Apart from the production races, which were based on production motorbikes, the actual Works Formula 750 machines were all one-offs. Everything was made in the workshop over here at Thruxton. Very, very little came off the shelf.
This section here was the oil tank, the original, and up here you got a header tank. But then you need two filler caps, that's for quick fill, when they're loading very quickly. And you've got,
So there's tubes all the way through that then, isn't there?
well, inside it's a massive, I mean it's a stainless steel for a start, which are very thin, so it just rips your hands apart when you're trying to cut it. Because we didn't have too many special tools.
I've just put in the second of the fork stanchions in place on the Cosworth, number 1 Cosworth, and it's so that we can be sure that on full lock we've got clearance here.
Well, I was originally called by Peter Inchley in to make a start on the earliest of the 750 Works Nortons, which we built just over the road there. And then John Players got involved in it, and the whole thing developed from there that most people know about, these John Player Nortons.
We had to produce 3 new bikes, Formula 750 bikes, in time for the 1972 season.
I then set to on the drawing board with the information that we'd gleaned from all the bikes and things, and the 72 Racer was born.
We didn't have much time to design, build and develop these bikes, but we did, and we reached Daytona in March of '72, and our first race was at Daytona with Phil Reed riding one bike and Peter Williams the other, and Phil finished 4th, I think. We were very pleased with that. A great achievement, I think, to produce a brand new motorcycle in 6 months and finish 4th at our debut. I don't know many Formula 1 cars that can do that these days. It was often said that we were most unsuccessful in that year because we had so many failures with gearbox transmission. But in fact, I think we did very well. Peter Williams won several international races that year. Phil Reed went on to finish 4th again at the 200-mile race at Imola after his Daytona debut. Peter won some big races at Brands Hatch. So all in all, I think we did very, very well. It's true we were bugged with gearbox transmission problems, highlighted, I guess, at the TT when both bikes went out at Ballast Bridge with the same problem, gearbox failure. But throughout the year, Peter had his mind on 1973, and he'd already thought up the monocoque concept.
It was a continual, ongoing process of development and repair and bit disheartening, really, because at no time could we catch up with the opposition, or very rarely. We were usually a whole year behind them. Like this year's bikes would have won last year's race, and next year's bikes would have won this year's race. So it was a bit disheartening, but most enjoyable work there. Had a good team of riders and a good team of boys working with us.
The big thing was to go off to the meeting each weekend, and it was a mad rush, but we rushing down the road here, there and everywhere, and ending up in hotels late at night to get up early in the morning to rush to the circuit. So our race started about, sort of 4 o'clock Friday afternoon for a race on Sunday. We were rushing around the continent, the country, everywhere. So it's those times were really good.
When we turned out with the monocoque machines, we had a fantastic season. Peter was top scorer in the famous Anglo-American meeting at Easter, where we rode at Brands Hatch on the Friday. We rode at Mallory Park on the Sunday and Alton Park on the Monday. Peter was top scorer of that series. He also equalled Barry Sheen that year on the monocoque with the Formula 750 Championship, Superbike Championship in fact. Barry took the title, he had one more win than Peter, which is a shame. But of course the highlight of the whole year was the TT, when Peter won at a record speed on his bike, and Mick Grant came second on the other monocoque. So 73 was a fantastic year.
So this is all aluminium, isn't it?
This one, yeah, it's a 2-part seat and tank, really. Complicated tank, because you have to get to water and plugs down through it, so the rear seat holds the back of the tank down, and we've got to fix it up the front. And we got, in the seat we got a box of electronics, which is that. And that fits inside there, on a platform, that way round. And, so if anything goes wrong, you just change the box of electrics.
This is my third attempt at coming out of retirement. I came out at 65, then I came out at 70, then I've come back at 75. Trouble is, memories. My memory goes back to perhaps last week with a bit of luck. But the job we're now talking about 30 years ago, and forget it. I rely on pictures and John's memory.